All right, he is so cool to join us. He called the game yesterday, had his responsibilities, of course, as the sports director at Fox 2. Make sure you check out the sports office at 7 o'clock at night as well. Had a bunch of people over. He did a song and dance. He did a one-man play, and he's still joining us this morning. That's a type of talented man that we have on. Dan Miller kindly joining us. Dan, really appreciate it. Obviously the game didn't go the way any of us wanted, but I hope you and your family at least had a blessed Thanksgiving.
We did. It was great, and I hope everybody out there did as well. So, I'm sure the food didn't taste quite as good after that result, but always nice to be with the people you love.
Dan, where do we start with this team? Because I've been sitting back and I hope that we get to the level that we all think they can be, okay? And I'm not saying it's not impossible, but we're kind of in this rut right now of loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. And obviously there are a lot of different things going on right now, but the reality is, as Dan said, we find ourselves in a hole and we got to find a way to dig out of it.
Yeah, they lost control of their destiny yesterday. And, just talking big picture and playoffs and where you are right now, you lost control of that. Now you're a game and a half behind Green Bay. They've got 2 in their pocket against you. Which doesn't come into play as much because they have that tie right now. So you just know that you need to win one more game than them. But, you're rooting hard now for Chicago to lose. And we haven't gotten to the part yet, Sean, where they just have to play better football. But in terms of this team, where they stand, and us spending a couple of weeks saying, okay, they lost a few, but, man, they still have Green Bay in front of them. They still have Chicago in front of them. They have some of the teams that they need to beat right there. They can handle their own business. Well, as of yesterday, that's pretty much gone. But I will say this. I still think there's going to be a lot of losing in the NFC North. I still think there's going to be a lot of teams getting beat up. And just, week to week to week, we're going to see things shift. But then you get back to the fact that they just have to play better. So, big picture, that division, a playoff spot, got more difficult because of what happened yesterday. Certainly not impossible, but at its core is the way you're playing and realistically where you have to go from here.
Dan, it's so funny. I mean, you hear it all the time, and you know the routine. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I openly admit it. I was one of those guys that wanted them to kick the field goal on the 4th and 3, the pass to Jameis. And I'm going to tell you right now, if Jameson makes that catch, I would also be the first guy to say, well, that's why Dan Campbell's the coach and I'm not. This is the way Dan Campbell is. People can get mad at it. But you know what's made him so successful is making those moves. And I'm just going to be one of those guys. I guess I'm not going to second guess him.
Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about it on the broadcast, and I said that's absolutely going to be second-guessed by people. I said before the play, but you got to think about a field goal here because you need one. Ultimately, you want to pull within 7 and have a chance to get the ball back and tie the game. Just looking at a 10-point difference. And then after the play, I said that's going to be second-guessed. So, look, you can come down on either side of it, but if you're on the side of it where you say, man, you got to kick the field goal, it's really hard for people to tell you you're wrong because they've got to figure out some way to get back in that game the best that they can. Possessions are going to be limited. And when possessions are limited, you have to think long and hard about whether or not you're going to have an opportunity to get the ball enough to catch up if you don't score there. And Sean, absolutely, the up and down about the live and die with a 4th down is if you make it, everybody loves it, and if you miss it, it's you're going to be second guessed. That's the way it works in football and other decisions that coaches have to make in other sports, and pulling a pitcher or whatever it is in baseball. There's just when something works, you're right. When something doesn't work, people want to know why you didn't do it the right way. So it's very rare after a play like that, if you get it right, that somebody's still going to be out there criticizing you, saying, oh, you shouldn't have done that because you're off and running and maybe J-Mo scores on the play. So fair criticism. It's something we brought up in the booth. And, yes, it is Dan's M.O., but there are also times in the game where maybe you look at it and you say, man, maybe I should have kicked it there. But it's so clouded by the fact that, Jared threw a ball a little bit behind him. I thought he certainly should have caught it, and it doesn't work. And then you're turning the ball over on downs. And now you're really in trouble down 2 possessions still.
Hey, Dan, you know me, I talk like a fan because I am a fan. And I look at this team and I shake my head at the things that happened to it, the injuries. They got Saint down. You got 3 practice squad guys on your starting offense. You're down Laporta. You haven't won a game since Laporta's gone out. They haven't had a lead in 2 weeks besides the overtime win. But the offensive side, the defense can't stop anybody. They looked horrible yesterday. The worst game I've seen them play was yesterday. And then you got Micah Parsons, 2.5 sacks, 8 quarterback hits, all of that kind of stuff on the other side. What happened to this defense? And Marcus Davenport, he's not even on the stat sheet. I know it's his first game back, not even on the stat sheet.
Yeah, I was having this conversation last night. There's something missing right now defensively. I mean, we saw that team in Philadelphia play a pretty good defensive game. And granted, Philadelphia has struggled on defense. But still, you took a team with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley, and you were able to do a really good job against them and hold them to 1 touchdown and hold them to 16 points. But man, you look at the last 2 games, they've just not been able to get off the field. And these teams are just scoring. Jameis Winston throws for over 300 yards, and the Giants rack up over 500. And then yesterday, if you look at the possession chart, man, they were outside of that. There was 1 punt in the first half. That possession at the end of the first half doesn't really count. They scored on all their other possessions. They came out in the third quarter and scored on their first 2 possessions in the second half. There's something that's not clicking right now. I mean, you've got Aiden Hutchinson, DJ Reed. You've got Talik Williams. You've got Roy Lopez, who's playing at a real nice level as a rotation guy right now. You've got Jack Campbell playing at a high level. You've got Brian Branch in there. You got TA back yesterday. And yet your defense just couldn't do much. There's a disconnect there. Something's not clicking right now defensively. We can look at it and say they're not getting to the quarterback. And I am not a fan of hearing about somebody tell me about pressures. If you go back and look at last year, from the point that they got Za'Darius on, they were in the top couple teams in the league in pressures, but they were giving up over 30 points a game from the Buffalo game on. They weren't stopping people. So I need quarterbacks on the ground. I need quarterbacks to be behind the downsticks because you got a guy that can get in there and sack them. That's what teams are doing to the Lions. They're getting issues, or maybe you get a holding play because somebody gets such a good rush, something like that. To me, it starts up front, and those guys haven't been good enough right now to impact the offense enough to, beat a good team. And if you look at their schedule this year, that's really where they've run into difficulties, is beating the better teams on their schedule.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. I just wanted to take it back to Dan Campbell really quick because, everybody was talking about the 4th down decision. You didn't get it there. And even to a very, very small degree, some of the clock management towards the end of the 4th quarter. Rex Ryan came on earlier in the week and said that Dan Campbell may have bitten off a little more than he can chew. And, after the last couple weeks, there may be a legitimate argument to be had there. What is your take on that? Do you think that Dan Campbell may be, his plate may be a little overcrowded at this point?
Yeah, I thought the end of the first half against the Giants, when they did not call that timeout after the completion down the field, where they would have had about 19, 20 seconds left, and they ended up with, I think, 7, and it limited what they could do. I think that was one time where I looked at it and said, I wonder if there's anybody in his headset that's helping him there. As he's thinking of the next play, is he also managing the clock? So I think it's a fair criticism, and I know he's smart enough that it's something he's going to look at, and if it's something like he feels he needs to do, I don't think there's an ego there to the point that he wouldn't do it. I think this is a rest of the season thing, guys, with him calling the plays. I don't know that it's a next year thing, and I don't base that on anything other than he's tried to give it away a couple times now. I don't know that this is something he wants on his plate. It's a lot. There's no
Yeah.
doubt. And if it is something that he wants to do himself, then I do think, and let me first say, I don't know the exact structure. There have been people in his ear in the past that have helped him with game management type things or decisions on replay type things. So I don't know what the current structure is and how much it changed, if at all, when he took over the play calling. But I think holistically, you do look at everything. And if you feel like there are things that are impacting one area because you're concentrating so much on other, then you have to look at that and say, okay, maybe we need to kind of move some things around here and move some pieces and get, somebody else's voice going. So I don't think the play calling is going to change. I think that's going to be with Dan. I'm not a believer that you can flip back and forth once you start doing that. So whether or not this is impacting his ability to make other choices, that's something we can speculate about. He'll know by being there and being the guy that looks back on a game tape and says, I should have done this there, I should have done that there, and maybe that's where he needs a little bit of help or somebody in his ear.
Yeah, and last one for me, just wanted to touch on the Frank Ragnow situation, him coming out of retirement. We were all happy and rejoicing with that before this Thanksgiving game, but it's good to have him back. He's missed a lot of time. I assume that there is a period of which he needs to get back in game shape, but how is Frank Ragnow coming back to this Lions offense going to help them down the stretch here?
Oh, yeah, I mean, look, you're getting one of the best players in the National Football League back, assuming that he is close to what he was when he walked out the door. And maybe that'll take a little bit of ramp-up time. But whatever it is, it's going to be an upgrade over what they're dealing with right now at center, where they've gone from Graham to Cologne, and they lost Mahogany. So, if they can move some guys around, just adding that piece. Look, Frank's a great player. And even beyond this year, if this is Frank wanting to say, yep, I got my taste, I want to come back, I'm going to play for the foreseeable future, then that drastically changes what you have to do in the offseason.
Yep.
Because you're plugging him back in there. So I think for many, many reasons, team leader, great guy, hell of a player, and what he means to just adding to that group, it's a great day for the Lions. What it can do for this season, to your point, don't know if he's going to be ready in a week to play against Dallas, or if it's going to be, seems more plausible to be another week down the road against the Rams, but we'll have to wait and see.
And I hope your family had a great holiday, Dan. We saw a lot of Aleem McNeil playing on the edge since Davenport went out. I kind of figured that last game, since Davenport was healthy, that he would go back to the middle, because that's where he is at his best, when he's dominating in there, because he brings that pass rush to the interior. Do you think we'll see more Aleem in the interior, or do you think he's going to stay at edge like he has been for the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I didn't look back at the game tape yesterday to see where he was aligned. A number of times I saw him in the middle. I don't know how often he was on the edge. So I obviously they were doing that. They were trying to get their best players on the field before Davenport came back, and he is an interior guy, and you saw what he can do on the final play of that New York game when he just carried the guard right back into the lap of Jameis Winston, made him move, and Hutch got the sack. To me, that's where he's at his best. That's where he's at his strength, when he can blow up, give you that middle pressure, which is the pressure that no quarterback wants to deal with. And this can go back to the conversation about whether or not they've got somebody on the other side that is equipped to provide them with enough to complement Hutch and get after the quarterback. But, I would just say this right now about that pass rush: everything's up for question. Everything needs to be looked at, because it's not impactful right now. They spent most of that game yesterday with no sacks and one quarterback hit. While the other side was moving Jared all over the place. And, obviously Parsons did what he did. So it's something that has to be looked at. I don't think Aleem is the answer on the outside. I think Aleem is the answer on the inside. I think that was just you trying to get your best guys out there. I like Aleem in a rotation in there with Lopez and Tyleek and DJ Reader, who, remember, is not under contract after this year. So that's where he belongs. He's not a full-time edge guy, and they need to figure something out over on that side to be more impactful getting after the quarterback. And it's, people could talk about Hutch and he needs to win, which he does, but other guys have to win their matchups too. This isn't all about 97. I know he's being paid a lot of money, but as other guys improve their ability to get after the quarterback, then Hutch will too. And that's not making excuses. I'm sure he'd sit here and tell you he needs to get after him a little bit better than he did. So I'm a big guys believer in the ability to get the quarterback on the ground is equal to your ability to really change what an offense has to do. And yesterday they weren't able to do that.
This guy's so classy. Seriously, Dan, we dragged you away from your family, and you're here doing Dan Miller things with that smile on your face. Make sure you check that out, of course. The Sportscast, the Sports Office at 7 o'clock, Sports Work over the weekend as well. The fine folks at Fox 2 have you covered. Enjoy the weekend, my friend. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Dan Miller kindly joining us here on the show.